Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangrove South Florida, and today's date is Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. Yes, it's now nice and cloudy in Fort Lauderdale. Has some rain showers coming through, like waves, nice lengthy waves. And but it is nice, it is cool out here, so I like that. And got myself some Uncle Matt's Ultimate Immune Juice, which has orange, elderberry, and zinc. Good stuff. COVID-19, flus, infections, and all that. Like I always say before, every infection or virus has an Achilles heel. Always believe in that, even if it's man-made or not. Okay, so you always got to look at those areas. You may hear some thunderstorms in the background. I'm under a pavilion. So, I'm going to do one quick, brief episode here. I'm going to narrate an article written by Jacob G. Hamburger from the Future F Freedom Foundation, which is fff.org. If you support them, subscribe, donate, that would be awesome. So always, every time I narrate some of these articles, I like to see you folks out there give them that support as well. That'd be beautiful. Because the only thing I say is tell folks, hey, we're just trying to put the message of love and truth out there the best we can in multiple avenues. All right, so we're going to start us off here. We have to say, what insurrection? You know how all the drama queens talk about the insurrection. Don't get me wrong, there's some folks that got injured, possible death. Some deaths, which is a shame. I'm not arguing about that. So that's what we have to say here. Somebody still needs to get a memo to the Justice Department about the so-called insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th, because it has yet to charge anyone with what offense. All I see is a range of criminal offenses like disorderly conduct, assault, trespass, illegal gun possession, and conspiracy to commit these types of offenses. Question: how come no one ever accuses the Justice Department of being a conspiracy theorist, given the countless times it charges people with conspiracy? Yet, we all continue to hear from the mainstream press and the liberal, i.e. progressive leftist socialist establishment, is that the protesters were hell-bent on taking control of Congress. How could anyone really buy into this nonsense, especially when the Justice Department and its grand juries are not? It's like these people live in an alternative universe in which they convince themselves of a false reality and then all reinforce it to each other. By now, we are accustomed to what happens when someone wants to kill people. He takes a high-powered rifle or a handgun and starts shooting people. Columbine comes to mind. So does Las Vegas. There are many other examples. That's what people who were hell-bent on taking over the Capitol would have done. They would have gone into the Capitol and begun shooting and killing people. They didn't do that. At most, they did what the Justice Department is accusing them of doing: committing disorderly conduct, trespass, assault, etc. Let's assume the worst and imagine that the trespassers had entered the Capitol and begun shooting people with the aim of taking control over the Capitol. Despite the manifest fears expressed by the mainstream press and the liberal establishment, there was zero chance that they would have ever have succeeded in their ultimate aim. The Capitol would have been surrounded by the FBI officers and National Guard troops. There might have been negotiations for surrender. There might have been a siege in which the malefactors were denied food and water. But the final continue would never have been in doubt. If the marauders refused to surrender, law enforcement officials and National Guard troops would have stormed the Capitol and retaken control of it. Protesters who survived would have been charged with such crimes as insurrection, kidnapping, and murder. A much more interesting and different situation, however, would have occurred if President Trump had orchestrated a violent and deadly takeover of the Capitol, with the expressed aim of remaining in power as president. In that case, you would have had what many people in the mainstream press and the liberal establishment were fearing in the run-up to Inauguration Day. A situation in which Trump was refusing to give up the reins of power and, in the process, orchestrating the violent takeover of the Capitol by his supporters. Then what? That possibility was undoubtedly the reason the Pentagon decided to issue its public declaration that Joe Biden was going to be the new president of the United States. See my article, Pentagon Speaks. The Pentagon statement was essentially a declaration to Donald Trump, don't even think about it. What if Trump had ignored the Pentagon's pronouncement and proceeded to remain in power and have his supporters violently take control over Congress? How could law enforcement officials and National Guard troops act to remove the marauders from Congress without lawful orders to proceed, especially when their commander-in-chief was ordering them to cease and desist? To understand what then would have happened, we can turn what occurred on 9/11 in 1973 in Chile. The national security branch of the government was insisting that the president of the country, Salvador Allende, stepped down in the middle of his term. Allende refused, and a war broke out between two branches of the national government, the executive branch and the national security branch. The national security branch surrounded Allende's position in the National Palace with tanks and infantry and began firing at his position. Air Force jets fired missiles into the palace with the intent of killing Allende. For his part, Allende, who was wearing a military helmet and firing a high-powered rifle, valiantly fought back along with some loyal aides. But they never had a chance against the overwhelming power of the military intelligence branch. When the war was over, Allende was dead, and many of his aides were captured, imprisoned, tortured, and re-educated. There was a claim on this, too. It's called Operation Condor. And there was information that Henry Kissinger was involved with this. But I'll continue on. As we know now, that the Chilean coup was instigated and supported by the U.S. national security establishment. In fact, the overall commander of Chile's armed forces, General Rene Schneider, stood in opposition to the coup because of his duty to support and defend the Chilean constitution. The U.S. national security state officials conspired to have him violently kidnapped to remove him as an obstacle to the coup. Schneider was shot and killed during the kidnapping attempt. Thus, what happened to Allende is precisely what would have happened if Trump had decided to remain in office and have his supporters take violent control over the Capitol. The message that the Joint Chiefs of Staff were delivering to Trump with their proclamation that Biden was now the new official president was that Trump, if he decides to remain in power, was going to do the same fate that Allende met at the hands of the Chilean military intelligence establishment. In other words, if Trump had chosen to remain in power, as his critics feared he would, the Pentagon would have ordered tanks and infantry to surround the White House and begin firing on the president's position, just like what happened in Chile. Air Force jets would have begun firing missiles into Trump's position in the White House, while Trump and his supporters would have tried to fight back. They never would have had a chance, any more than Allende did. The overwhelming power of a national security establishment makes it the ultimate decider of who is going to be in power. Maybe Trump never seriously considered it, as his critics feared. But if he did, he was smart to see the hand right on the wall and not to try. At the end of the war, he would have lost, just like Allende did. And those who had supported Trump and who survived would have been charged with insurrection. There's a difference, folks. What you see on January 6th was just drama queen rhetoric. Now, I do remember reading about this stuff, too. and watching videos on the Chile overthrow of Chile. Allende, September 11th, 1973. There's a claim. I think you may have to look at the National Security Archives under Operation Condor, and of course, there was pending that the Chilean government is ready to indict Henry Kissinger for war crimes that happened on that horrific day. So this is where you gotta look at it, folks. If you're talking about what an insurrection is, do a little history. I never see it that way. I call it an inside job. It was a silent coup, a light coup that happened. It was done internally. It was pre-orchestrated. Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. So, of course, you have a lot of people in the Pentagon are not even crazy about Joe Biden. There's a lot of claims on that. I still call him white privilege Joe. I'm not a Trump lover. That's the facts, folks. So do a little history and you start listening to all these bobbleheads. Remember, the past is today's greatest teacher. Hopefully you learned something here from today. I did. So, and that will be it. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or say something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave a footnote of this article on my Spreaker page. And if you want to contact me, hit me at Looking Luck numbers 03@protonmail.com. Or if you want to donate, hit me at paypal.me or cash.app/Looking Luck 3. All right, my friends, once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.